Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. Daily Compliance News for April 5, 2023, the Not Their Finest Hour edition. We begin with that story from the Wall Street Journal. Jamie Dimon released a letter on the recent banking turmoil, and he blamed a wide variety of folks, including financial players, regulators, and investors. And he called on regulators to increase regulations, but notes that the risks were hiding in plain sight. In a 43-page bromide, Dimon used his letter to highlight J.P. Morgan's performance and weigh in on political issues, bank regulation, and the state of the economy. Next up, the first of 2 stories from Reuters, and Volkswagen is fighting a draconian SEC sanctions bid in the fraudulent emission case. There's really no question that fraudulent emissions were the word of the day or words of the day at Volkswagen for quite some time, but a employee in Germany has refused to sit for a deposition. Thorsten Dusenstreich, that butchered that. Really no reason for him to sit, and German laws bars the company from taking any adverse action on his refusal to testify. Given how the DOJ and SEC work, I would be very loath to sit for a deposition myself. Next up, also from Reuters, our second story is a Swiss appeals court upheld the corruption ruling against former Israeli mining magnate Benny Steinmetz, who was sentenced in Geneva 2 years ago in one of the most high-profile criminal trials ever. The Steinmetz lawyers called for a full acquittal or closing the case on procedural grounds, but that didn't happen. So Benny Steinmetz still in prison, or going to prison, rather. And our final story comes to us from the New York Times. And this involves the former startup company founder, the founder of Frank, Charlie Gervais, who defrauded J.P. Morgan out of $175 million. So you would think J.P. Morgan, of all people, would perform adequate due diligence, but the books and records she presented were apparently fraudulent, and the J.P. Morgan was duped into buying her startup for that amount. Prosecutors have now charged her with fraud. So I guess even the best people can do substandard due diligence. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.